Chapter 6, The Deadly Poppy Field. That night, Dorothy and her friends camped under a large tree in the forest. The Tin Man cut some wood with his axe so that Dorothy could make a fire. The Lion hunted for food, and the Scarecrow searched for nuts and berries. After several days, they passed through the forest and came to a lovely, sunny land. The first thing they saw was a large field of scarlet poppies. Poppies are beautiful flowers, but when there are so many of them together, the smell is so powerful that anyone who breathes it falls asleep. Dorothy didn't know this, and in a very short time her eyes grew heavy and she sat down to rest. The Tin Man tried to awaken Dorothy. He shouted, "There's no time to rest. We must hurry and return to the yellow brick road before dark." But by this time, Dorothy was fast asleep. Since the Tin Man and the Scarecrow were not made of flesh, the scent of the poppies did not make them sleepy. "What shall we do?" asked the Tin Man. "How will we ever get back on the road to Oz? If we leave Dorothy here, she will surely die." The Scarecrow had an idea. He told the Lion to run ahead through the field so that he could escape the deadly flowers. Then he and the Tin Man could carry Dorothy and Toto out of the poppy field. So the Tin Man and the Scarecrow made a chair with their hands and carried Dorothy slowly through the field. After a while, they came to a bend in the river. There, lying fast asleep in the flowers, was the lion. The smell from the poppies had been so strong that the huge beast had given up and fallen asleep. The Scarecrow and the Tin Man felt very sad, since they could not carry the lion because he was so heavy. They had no choice but to leave him there to sleep. Chapter 7, The Queen of the Field Mice. The Scarecrow and the Tin Man sat beside a river and waited for Dorothy to wake up. "We can't be far from the yellow brick road now," said the Scarecrow, "but which way do you suppose it is?" The Tin Man was about to answer when he heard a low growl. He turned his head and saw a large yellow wildcat come running toward him. Its mouth was open, showing 2 rows of ugly, sharp teeth. Its red eyes glowed like balls of fire. It was chasing a tiny gray field mouse. Although he had no heart, the Tin Man knew it was wrong for the wildcats to try to kill such a tiny creature. So the Tin Man raised his axe, and as the wildcat ran by, he gave it a quick blow and cut the beast's head off. "Oh, thank you ever so much for saving my life," said the field mouse in a squeaky voice. "You're quite welcome," answered the Tin Man. "Even though I have no heart, I'm careful to help those who need a friend, even if it happens to be only a mouse." The tiny mouse looked shocked. "Why, I'm the queen of all the field mice, and since you saved my life, I owe you a good deed in return." But the Tin Man could not think of anything this tiny mouse could do to help him. Just then, the Scarecrow got an idea. "I know something you could do to help us," he shouted. "Our friend the lion is fast asleep in the poppy field. Do you think you could help us move him?" The Tin Man could not understand how a tiny mouse could move a great lion, but the queen of the field mice informed him that she was queen of thousands of mice. She gave a signal, and in a few minutes they were surrounded by field mice. They came from all directions. There were big mice and little mice and middle-sized mice. Each one brought a piece of string in its mouth. The Tin Man and the Scarecrow worked very quickly, and in no time at all, they made a truck out of tree branches. They slowly tied one end to each piece of string around the neck of each mouse and fastened the other end to the truck. When all the mice had been harnessed to the truck, they were able to pull it quite easily. The Tin Man and the Scarecrow sat on the wooden truck while the tiny mice pulled them into the poppy field. They soon found the lion. They finally managed to get him on the truck, but they had to work very hard, for the lion was very heavy. Then, with the help of the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, the mice were able to pull the truck out of the poppy field. By this time, Dorothy and Toto were awake, and they were all very happy to see their friend, the lion, being pulled away from the deadly flowers. The queen of the field mice bowed and in a squeaky voice said, "Goodbye, and if you ever need us again, come out into the field and call, and we shall hear you and help you any way we can. Goodbye." Chapter 8, The Emerald City. The next morning, as soon as the sun was up, Dorothy and her friends started on their way. Soon they saw a beautiful green glow in the sky. "That must be the Emerald City," said Dorothy. As they walked, the green glow became brighter and brighter. It seemed that at last they were at the end of their long journey. Finally, they reached the end of the yellow brick road. Before them stood a huge gate covered with emeralds. The jewels glittered in the sun. Next to the gate was a bell. Dorothy rang the bell and a big gate swung open, very slowly. Inside was a large room covered with shining emeralds. A little man stood inside the room. He was dressed all in green. At his side was a large green box. He asked Dorothy and her friends why they had come to the Emerald City. "We came here to see the Wizard of Oz," said Dorothy. The man was so surprised at this answer that he sat down to think. "It has been many years since anyone has come to see the great wizard," he said. "I hope your business is important, because if you have come here for a foolish reason, he might get angry and destroy all of you." But the Scarecrow assured the man that they had come on very important business. Then the small man explained that he was the guardian of the gate, and only he could take them to see the great Oz. But before they could enter the wonderful city, everyone had to put on green glasses. The guardian of the gate explained that the glasses would prevent them from being blinded by the brightness of the Emerald City. He carefully unlocked the box and fitted everyone, even little Toto, with a pair of green glasses. Finally, they were all ready to enter the gates of the Emerald City. Chapter 9, The Great Oz. Even though their eyes were protected by the green glasses, Dorothy and her friends were dazzled by the wonderful city. The streets were lined with beautiful houses, which were all made of green marble and covered with sparkling emeralds. There were many people, men, women, and children, all dressed in green clothing. Several shops were open, and Dorothy saw that everything in them was green. There were green candies, green cookies, and even green glasses of green lemonade. Everyone seemed happy and comfortable in the Emerald City. The guardian of the gate led them through the streets until they came to a big building exactly in the middle of the city. This was the Palace of Oz. In front of the door stood a soldier. He was dressed in a green uniform and had a long green beard. "Here are the strangers," said the guardian of the gate, "and they demand to see the great Oz." The soldier asked everyone to follow him inside the palace. Then he asked them to wait while he brought their message to the great Oz. They had to wait a long time before the soldier returned. When he finally came back, Dorothy asked, "Have you seen Oz?" "Oh, no," answered the soldier. "I've never seen him, but I spoke with him as he sat behind a screen. I gave him your message. He said that he will talk to each one of you, but he will only see one of you each day. So you must stay here at the palace for a few days. I will show you to your rooms." The next morning, a young woman dressed all in green came to see Dorothy. She gave Dorothy a lovely green dress and even tied a green bow around Toto's neck. When the woman led Dorothy and Toto to the throne room of the palace to see the great Oz himself. After waiting for a few minutes, a bell rang. Dorothy walked into the throne room. The room was very big, and all the walls were covered with glistening emeralds. In the middle of the room stood a huge throne. It was shaped like a chair and sparkled with gems. In the center of the chair was an enormous head. There was no body or arms or legs to support the head. It stood alone. Dorothy looked at the enormous head with wonder and fear. The eyes in the head turned slowly and the mouth moved. Then a voice said, "I am Oz, the great and terrible. Who are you and why are you here?" Dorothy was frightened, but somehow she had the courage to answer him. "I'm Dorothy, and I have come to ask you to help me return to my home in Kansas." The eyes looked at her for a few minutes. Then a voice said, "Where did you get those silver shoes, and what is that mark on your forehead?" Dorothy explained that the shoes had belonged to the Wicked Witch of the East, and that the mark on her forehead was the magical kiss of the Good Witch of the North. The eyes looked at her carefully. They winked 3 times, and then they turned up to the ceiling and down to the floor and rolled around so that they could see every part of the room. Then the great Oz was ready to give his answer. "If you want me to help you return to Kansas, you must first do something for me. You must kill the Wicked Witch of the West." Dorothy began to cry. "I've never killed anything willingly," she explained, "and even if I wanted to kill the Wicked Witch, I would not know how." But the great Oz only said, "That is my answer. Until the Wicked Witch dies, you will not return to Kansas. Remember that the wicked witch is very evil and ought to be killed. Now go and do not return until she is dead." Sadly, Dorothy left the throne room and told her friends what had happened. The Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion felt very sad because they could not help Dorothy. The next morning, the soldier with the green beard led the Scarecrow into the throne room. There, sitting on the sparkling throne, was a beautiful woman dressed in green silk and covered with jewels. Large green wings flew from her shoulders. The Scarecrow bowed, and the beautiful woman said, "I am the Great Oz. Who are you, and what do you want?" The Scarecrow was very surprised. He had expected to see the head Dorothy had told him about, but he answered the Great Oz and explained that what he wanted more than anything else was to have brains. Oz was quiet for a few minutes. Then he said, "I never grant favors without something in return. If you will kill the Wicked Witch of the West, I will give you the best brains in all the land. You will be the wisest man there is." The Scarecrow was confused. "But you asked Dorothy to kill the Wicked Witch of the West," he answered. "So I did," answered Oz. "I don't care who kills her, but until she is dead, I will not grant your wish." The Scarecrow returned to his friends. He told them that the Great Oz had appeared in the form of a beautiful woman, but had refused to give him any brains until the Wicked Witch was killed. The next morning, the Tin Man was called into the throne room. This time, the Great Oz appeared as a terrible beast. The creature was as big as an elephant and had a head like a rhinoceros. It had 5 arms and 5 long legs. Thick woolly hair covered its huge body. The Tin Man had never seen such a terrible creature. "I am Oz the Great and Terrible," spoke the beast. "Who are you and what do you want?" The Tin Man explained that he wanted a heart so that he could love. Oz waited only a minute before he replied. He explained to the Tin Man that he would receive a wonderful heart only if he helped Dorothy and the Scarecrow kill the Wicked Witch of the West. The Tin Man bowed his head and slowly left the throne room. When he returned to his friends, he sadly told them what Oz had said. The next morning, it was the Lion's turn to talk to the Great Oz. When he entered the throne room, he expected to see the great head, the beautiful woman, or the hideous beast. But the Lion saw none of these. Instead, to his surprise, he saw a great ball of fire. The ball of fire was so fierce and glowing that he could hardly look at it. As the Lion moved away from the heat of the fire, he heard a quiet voice say, "I am Oz the Great and Terrible. Who are you and what do you want?" The frightened Lion answered, "I'm a cowardly lion, afraid of everything. I came to beg you to give me courage so that I can become the king of the beasts." The ball of fire burned for a time, and then the voice said, "Bring me proof that the Wicked Witch is dead, and then I will give you courage." The Lion was angry at the Great Oz, but he was too frightened to say anything, so he ran from the room and joined his friends. After the Lion told Dorothy what had happened, she looked at him sadly. "What shall we do now?" she asked. "There's only one thing we can do," answered the Lion, "and that is to go to the land of the Winkies, where the Wicked Witch lives, and destroy her." "But suppose we can't destroy her," said Dorothy. "Then I will never have courage," said the Lion. "And I will never have a heart," said the Tin Man. "And I will never have brains," said the Scarecrow. "And I will never see Aunt Em and Uncle Henry," cried Dorothy. "I suppose we must try it, but I'm sure I do not want to kill anybody, even to see Aunt Em again," said Dorothy. So Dorothy and her friends decided to begin their journey the very next morning. Okay, so we have just finished chapters 6 through 9, and a lot of really interesting things happened. I'm going to go to my pictures here for a second. So we started in chapter 6 with the poppy field. Remember, Dorothy, they're all traveling across the poppy field, and the smell of the poppies is so strong that it puts Dorothy and Toto to sleep. Does anybody remember why it doesn't affect the Tin Man and the Scarecrow? Anybody remember why that didn't bother them? Okay, see if anybody can think of that and maybe let us know perhaps. It might have had something to do with the fact that Dorothy is a real person and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow were not like living things. you know, so they were made out of either tin or straw and fabric. It did, though, the poppies did affect the lion, and he fell into a deep, deep sleep, and they could not carry him out, so they started to leave without him. And then something happened where they encountered a mouse who offered to help them, and she turned out to be the mouse queen. And when they explained their situation to her, she called together all the mice, and they were able to build a cart, and they were able to go, and with the help of the Tin Man and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and Dorothy, load the lion up on the cart and bring him back. And he woke up and recovered from the poppies. Now, immediately after that, and the book goes so much faster than the movie, we're at Oz. We're here. We're at the Emerald City. And they have to get themselves into the Emerald City, and they are required, I didn't remember this at all, they're required to wear the green glasses. I didn't remember that from the movie. I thought they all just had their regular clothes on. And to be in the Emerald City, everything in there is green, and they all had to put on green outfits. That's something I didn't remember. The other thing that was unusual that I didn't remember from the movie was that Oz appeared differently to each one of them. When I think back to the movie, I remember the four of them walking up to the great and powerful Oz together, arms linked, it seems like, and in they were, and they presented themselves to him asking for his help. Now, in the book, they each have to go on a separate day, and they meet the great and powerful Oz separately. So to Dorothy, he appears as a giant floating head. To the Scarecrow, he appeared as like a beautiful woman, kind of a fairy type, butterfly type, almost a little bit of a, I don't know, mermaidy type thing going on there, woman. To the Tin Man, he appeared as a giant dragon, monster type thing. And to the Cowardly Lion, he appeared as a fierce glowing ball of fire. However, Oz did ask each of them one specific task if they wanted to have their wishes granted. And anybody remember what that was? He told each one of them the same thing, the exact same thing. If you would like me to honor your wish, you will have to kill the Wicked Witch of the West. And Dorothy at first said, oh, I could never do that. But he did ask the same thing of all four of them. And he said, this is the only way your wish is going to be granted. So that's kind of where we ended up. So when we start chapter 10, chapter 10 is the search for the Wicked Witch. So that's where we're going next. Now we're going to get off on our journey trying to find the Wicked Witch of the West. Oh, and here I can see her. I'm peeking ahead a little bit. Here she is. She actually kind of looks like the witch that was in the movie. So we'll have to see if their adventures are similar or different to the ones in the movie. So, okay, I'm enjoying reading it because I'm seeing kind of a whole different version of The Wizard of Oz. So I hope you guys are too. All right, see you next time for chapter 10.